Howdy folks, and welcome to, well, I suppose the Salt Mines Discord Q&A for May, which is also going out as Mingles with Jingles on Monday. And thank you to everybody who turned up and waited and waited and kept waiting, because I'd completely forgotten this was happening. I was lying there in bed, and then I heard this noise coming from the computer room, and I thought, that's strange. That can't be an alarm going off. I didn't set an alarm. And if it was an alarm going off, why isn't it going off on the Alexa in my... Oh my God, it's Discord. So, so thank you to everybody who waited while I went and fed the cats and made some coffee and so on. But I'm back. We're here. And thank you, of course, to the staff who made sure that I heard the noise and got to the computer in time. Otherwise, this would have been... I was actually lying there in bed thinking, oh, that's an amazing... I was thinking of stuff to talk about in Mingles with Jingles. Completely forgot this was happening. A couple of videos that I was... Well, I don't know, there's a game called Viewfinder. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. I recommend you Google it because it looks... Do you remember the unrecord thing that I did in Mingles with Jingles a week or two ago? The photorealistic Unreal Engine 5 police body cam type thing. I mean, that's amazing. Viewfinder goes in a different direction with highly stylized, kind of like Borderlands, but lots and lots of different art styles. All basically, you move through photographs. It is absolutely bonkers, and I definitely want to talk about that in a future episode of Mingles with Jingles, not today, because today we have questions to answer. So, cracking straight on, because I figure I've kept you all waiting long enough. First question comes from Basement Jesus. Jingles, out of all of the generals to serve in World War II, which ones do you have the most respect for and the least respect for on both sides when it came to doing their jobs as leaders of men and the way they handled themselves as soldiers in that rank? This one's actually fairly easy. Normally, I see these questions and I have to spend a bit of time thinking about the answer, but the most respect would go for Bill Slim, who was the commander of the 14th Army, which was the Forgotten Army, as they refer to themselves. The British and Commonwealth Forces Army in the Far East, India, Burma, and so on and so on. He was the other, alongside General, or rather Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, the other British general to make it at the rank of Field Marshal in World War II, and almost nobody's ever heard of him. But he took an army that had been defeated, beaten, and had its arse kicked all the way across the Indian subcontinent, and turned it, because he believed in the value of training, he turned it into an army that took on the Imperial Japanese Army on its own terms and kicked their asses all the way back to Japan. He trained the army to, because generally speaking, if an army anywhere got itself surrounded, they were cut off from the logistics, they would tend to surrender, because, hell, we're surrounded, now what are we going to do? Slim taught the 14th Army to fight surrounded, to not worry about being cut off from logistics. He turned an army that had had its arse kicked all the way from the start of the Second World War, all the way back to India, into an army that kicked the Japanese arse all the way back in the other direction. And hardly anybody's ever heard of him. And I'd highly recommend reading his biography, Uncle Bill. It's a good couple of inches thick, but it's absolutely worth it. I think he ended his career as the governor of Australia. And surprisingly, was loved and respected by the Australians. He was just that kind of guy. An amazing fella, and easily my most respected general of World War II. My least respected general of World War II would be Boy Browning. Again, somebody many of you may not have heard of, but he was basically the guy in charge of Operation Market Garden, or at least in charge of the airborne side of Operation Market Garden. Remember, it also consisted of an Third Armoured Corps, pushing up Hell's Highway to link up with all of the bridges that were captured by the airborne forces. And he basically had no idea what he was doing. He ignored all of the intelligence that told him that there were German forces, a lot more German forces in the Netherlands than they had anticipated, because it didn't fit with his plan. He issued verbal orders countermanding the written orders to the various generals of the airborne divisions, which resulted in the bridge at Nijmegen not being taken on the first day, because he'd verbally told US Airborne General Jim Gavin to make the defence of I can't remember the name of the forest, but there was basically Germany was right on the other side of this. I mean, it was only a couple of kilometres across, and there could have been any number of German forces in the forest on the German side. And rather than securing the bridge at Nijmegen, which was the whole point of Operation Market Garden, he verbally told General Jim Gavin to make securing the heights his top priority, as a result of which Jim Gavin only sent a single platoon into Nijmegen out of his entire airborne division because he was following the verbal orders that had been given by Boy Browning. The guy was an absolute tit of the highest order, and how the hell he made the rank of general, I have absolutely no idea. And you could argue that Market Garden, I mean, it was an ambitious plan, but you could argue that Market Garden probably failed as a result of his interference. So, yeah, Bill Slim and Boy Browning. One, a magnificent leader of men, the other, an arsehole of the highest order. Thank you for the question, it was a good one. Right, next question from Yamatog2. Greetings, almighty Overlord Jingles. Last month I made a dream of mine come true by going to Japan for 2 weeks. Oh, congratulations. And while I am a massive weeb, you don't say. It's not, your name's a bit of a giveaway. The two places I look forward to most were not anime related. The Yamato Museum in Kure and the Mikasa at Yokosuka. The Mikasa especially was very impressive, and although the weather is... Yeah, they do actually have the Mikasa there. They don't have the Yamato at the Yamato Museum, do they? It would probably be slightly more impressive if they did, but yeah. The Mikasa especially was very impressive, and although the weather is taking a toll on her, they are looking after her well, changing the deck of the bow when I visited. Which foreign military museum or museum ships were you most impressed by? Oh, that one's easy. USS Intrepid in New York, on the Hudson River side. That's the west side of New York Island, Manhattan Island. Absolutely incredible. For a start, it's an aircraft carrier. I think it's where they filmed the final scene of Crimson Tide as well. Not sure, not really relevant. But for a start, it's an aircraft carrier. But it also took part in the space program because it was one of the carriers that was used to retrieve some of the Apollo missions when they splashed down in the ocean. So they've got like Apollo and Gemini capsules on board. It's a big floating museum. You've got the flight deck with all of these aircraft laid out for inspection. So it's an aviation museum, it's a naval museum, and it's a space museum because it's got the Space Shuttle Enterprise at the back of the flight deck, parked on the flight deck of the carrier. So it's like 3 different tickets for the price of one, and every one of them are fantastic. It's an amazing museum. As far as, I mean, these are foreign military museums. As far as domestic military museums are concerned, I would have to say it would. I mean, it's not the question that you asked, but I'm going to answer it anyway. The Fleet Air Arm Museum at Yeovilton in Somerset here in the UK. They don't have an aircraft carrier there, but they have an aircraft carrier replica, what they call the aircraft carrier experience, where you are helicoptered onto the deck of a 1970s working British aircraft carrier at sea at night, with Phantoms taken off, burning their afterburners into the heat shields and catapulting off into the night sky, and then you get to walk around the island, and it's just incredible. I mean, you're obviously not on a 1970s aircraft carrier in the middle of the night, but they do a really good job of making it look and feel as if you are. So, again, another good question. Thank you very much. The next question comes from Berner. Actually, 2 questions. Hello, Jingles. Are you recording? I hope so. And now that that's out of the way, here's the real question. Are you planning to finish the Russian farting simulator, aka Breath Edge? I never finished that, did I? You're right. I guess no, I'm not planning to. I've got Bendy and the Dark Revival on the way at the moment, and I think I'm near to the end of that, because I've just reached chapter 5, and apparently there are only 5 chapters. I was thinking of doing Dredge next, because I just started playing that yesterday, and it's really, really good. Only a little bit scary. But Breath Edge, I don't know. It was fun, and I enjoyed it, but the jokes started to get a bit repetitive. And I suppose I kind of stopped playing it around about the time it turned into a sort of building simulator. And I'm not sure what it was about it, but I just sort of lost interest. Anyway, sorry about that. Next question from Yalara. Greetings, Uncle Jingles. I know you left Assassin's Creed Valhalla with disappointment, and rightfully so. The last games of the franchise were mediocre. With that said, may I strongly recommend you play the first 4 games. Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood and Revelations. I also recommend watching the shorts Lineage. I never knew how you pronounce that game. Is it Lineage or Lineage? Because there was actually an MMO by that. And I never dared trying to pronounce the name of that thing in public either, in case I got it wrong. But anyway, whatever. We'll call it Lineage before AC2, and Embers after Revelations on YouTube. Any AC fan will tell you these games are among the best ones of the saga in terms of story, characters, and settings. Because the very first Assassin's Creed game I played was Odyssey, and I mean, it's easy for me to say Odyssey was the high point of the series because I never played any of the previous ones, and while Valhalla wasn't bad, it wasn't anywhere near as good as Odyssey. But people said, oh, you need to go back and play Origins. And, okay. And Origins was only a couple of years older than Odyssey. And you could see when playing Origins, and I'm not saying Origins was a bad game, far from it. It was an amazing game. But when you'd played Odyssey, and then you went back to Origins, you could see that basically Odyssey was Origins, pumped full of steroids, and with the shit polished out of it. Which meant that while Origins was absolutely a good game in its time, going back to Origins after playing Odyssey, you were playing a less polished, less good version of the game that you'd already just played. And people keep saying, oh, you need to play these other Assassin's Creed games, the even earlier ones. And I had to go with Black Flag, and it just took so long to get into it. I don't really want to tarnish the reputation of those games by going back and trying them after I've played something as amazing as Assassin's Creed Odyssey, if that makes sense. Because everybody speaks really highly of them. And they said that Origins was astonishing. And I'm sure that when people first played it, when it was a new game, before Odyssey came out, Origins was astonishing. But it's not after you've played Odyssey, if that makes any sense. And I really don't want to ruin the reputation of the previous games for myself by going back and playing them when they're not cutting edge and at their best, if you know what I mean. That might not be a great reason, but it's my reason. Maxor 4. Hello, Jingles, sir. I remember you played the first chapters of Breath Edge. Same question, same answer. No plans on picking it up again, even though the remaining chapters have been released. And later on in the second area, he says he does switch from... People can go back in and edit the questions that they've asked as I go on and... Sorry, you have to remember, I was in bed half an hour ago. But they can hear what I'm saying, and if that means that their question needs to be edited, they can go back and do that. And that's what he's done here. He's saying later on in the second area to switch from building to a bit more story-driven. Sprototales, I'm probably mispronouncing your name. Love the V for Vendetta avatar, however. Hi, Jingles. There are any games you would like to play but don't because it will consume tons of your time. For example, EVE Online. Yes, EVE Online. Absolutely, EVE Online. Because, I mean, EVE Online has the benefit of you being able to play it when you're not there. So you can level up skills and stuff even when you're not logged in. But it's not a game, it's a spreadsheet. And it's a spreadsheet that occupies your life. I used to play EVE Online, not particularly for a long time. I think I'd never unlocked anything bigger than a cruiser. Maybe I'd unlocked a battleship, but even that's small fries in that game. EVE Online is not a game, it is a way of life. I'm trying to think of other games like that. Games that just suck you. I mean, you could argue World of Warcraft, but I mean, I play World of Warcraft, but some days I log in, I do a couple of dailies, and I'm done within 20 minutes. It's not like it consumes my life, although, for some people it absolutely does. There was a second part of his question, though. He'd like to recommend the book by Harry Harrison named Bill the Galactic Hero, the only officer who can salute with both right arms at the same time. I think I've read that, but it was a I've read quite a few Harry Harrison books. Mostly because the comic that I read when I was a kid growing up, 2000 AD, where Judge Dredd comes from, for example, had a series called The Stainless Steel Rat, which were based on a bunch of books written by Harry Harrison featuring the galactic criminal Slippery Jim DeGriz. And as a result of reading The Stainless Steel Rat, they were very, very witty and funny series of science fiction crime capers. I thought, I'll read more of his stuff, and I'm pretty sure I read Bill the Galactic Hero, the only officer who can salute with both right arms at the same time. But good recommendation anyway. Harry Harrison, a great writer. Also, as people pointed out in, I think, Was it? I can't remember if it was an episode of Bendy and the Dark Revival or an episode of Mingles with Jingles, but I was talking about Soylent Green, the Charlton Heston movie from the late 60s, which was based on a book that I assumed was written by Philip K. Dick, because let's face it, most movie adaptations of dystopian science fiction novels were written by Philip K. Dick. But as people pointed out, it was actually Make Room by Harry Harrison. So, yeah, I don't know why I mentioned that. I suppose it's a tie-in. But, yes, anyway, Sprottolus, thank you very much for reminding me of how great a writer Harry Harrison was. The Make-A-Whoosh Foundation has the next question. Morning, Jingles, Cats, Chat, Daves and Davettes. I've been wondering, what is karma in World of Warships for? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so when you play World of Warships, you can be reported. You get up to 10 reports per day. You know, like if somebody's been a particular dick, you can report them. And this gives them negative karma. And if you've enjoyed playing with people on your team, or even the other team, if somebody's been particularly, sporting or done particularly well on the other team, you can give them a +1. And this gives them positive karma. And it's just there to make you feel better about not being able to do anything about people who piss you off. Basically, it doesn't do a single damn thing. I've got hundreds of karma, and I have experienced no additional effects as a result of having a couple of hundred karma. Out of people who, well, I'm pretty sure Flamu, for example, probably has negative karma. No effects whatsoever. The whole reporting system in World of Warships is, giving people a +1 for doing a good job is nice, but it's basically it's about as effective as giving somebody a thumbs up. It just communicates that you think they've done a good job. Other than that, it doesn't actually do anything. And reporting somebody for bad play, unsportsmanlike behaviour, whatever, it doesn't directly do a single thing other than reducing their karma, which doesn't do a single thing other than being reduced. It's just there to make you feel slightly less frustrated about somebody being a dick and having suffered no obvious consequences from it. What can happen is that there are automated systems that if you've suddenly been getting a whole lot of reports for the same reason from a whole bunch of people in a couple of battles, it might trigger a chat ban or an account suspension, based on a whole bunch of hidden rules that Wargaming have in their reporting system that we don't actually know about. But the karma itself doesn't do anything. So, yeah. He even says himself here, he says it's a little more than a 2-click pacifier for the player base so they don't spam report tickets that have to be handled by a human. And the upvote options are only there to sell it. Yeah, absolutely right. That's basically what it is. It doesn't do anything other than make you feel slightly less mad about the actions of somebody in the battle that you just played, so that you don't go to spam a report ticket. You can just vent your frustrations by giving them a downvote. That's it. That's why it exists. Oh, he's got a second question here as well. Do you know the Desperados game series? Story-driven Wild West-themed commando-style tactical puzzles, a bit like Red Dead XCOM. I am aware of them. I didn't play them, and I think the reason why was because there was a game series called Hidden and Dangerous. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but it was like a World War II. I don't want to say special forces, but a commando team. And that's basically exactly what the Desperados game were, except they were in the Wild West. I'd already played the shit out of Hidden and Dangerous, and I just didn't have any interest in the same thing, but with a Wild West skin. As far as I'm aware, the games were reviewed very well. They were not bad games, but I never played them. Sorry about that. Next question from Catster. Good morning, Gnome Overlord. I hope you're having a good weekend so far. I am, actually, thank you. What got you into tanks and ships, etc. in the first place? Was it just a Centurion that's out the Vickers Arms factory and you going, oh, that's cool? Or is there more? Oh, Catster's obviously been around a long time. When I was growing up in Newcastle upon Tyne, you'd catch the number 20 bus into town from where I lived, and it would go past the Vickers Armstrong factory that used to be, I think an ever-ready battery factory. But this, actually, no. The ever-ready battery factory was in a different location. The Vickers Armstrongs factory has been there forever because it got bombed by the Luftwaffe in the Second World War. So, yeah, anyway, and outside, the gate guard was, because that's where they built the Centurion tank. They had a Centurion tank on a plinth. And I must have mentioned this years ago, so that tells you how long Catster's been around for. What was it that got me into tanks and ships? It's just that tanks are cool. I mean, ships, obviously, I was in the Navy. And you didn't see an awful lot of tanks in the Navy, but that didn't stop them from being cool. I was into aircraft before I was into tanks and ships. Let me think. When we lived in South Africa, and then we moved to Swaziland, and I went to boarding school in South Africa. So I would have been about 14, 15 years old, and I won an essay competition in English class. And the prize was a book token. And so I went straight to the bookshop in town and I bought one of these big hardback sort of coffee table books that was just full of illustrations and design specifications of fighter and bomber aircraft. And that was my most kids would have bought a whole bunch of comics, but no, I wanted to know about military vehicles. So aircraft, and then tanks, because tanks are just amazing. And there is no special reason. There wasn't one specific thing that made me think, wow, tanks are amazing. Although I suppose driving past a Centurion on the way to and from Newcastle every weekend when I went into town probably was a factor. But I've always been into military hardware. It's one of the reasons why I tend to like where I first really started watching anime. I mean, when I first joined the Navy, first Gulf War, and then we got back and had some leave, and that was about the same time that the manga company were importing anime into the UK for the first time. So things like Akira, Venus Wars, Legend of the Overfiend, blah blah, all these really old original anime. And what impressed me most about it was the attention to detail on all of the military equipment. So the tanks and stuff in Venus Wars, and the way that they actually modelled real weapons in Akira and depicted them functioning accurately. You could always tell the state of a weapon that anybody was holding just by looking at it, because, it was realistic. So that, more than anything, more than the animation style, more than the over-sexualized teen girl thing, the whole dedication to accuracy as far as military equipment was concerned is the thing that really got me into that sort of thing, because I've always been a military hardware nerd, I suppose. And by that token, it's completely understandable that I'd be into tank, ships and aircraft. So yeah, no one particular thing. I've always just been a hardware nerd. Bearcat Racing has the next question. Jingles, I hope you know. He's missing his bingo game for this. I'm really sorry I was late. So, serious question. If you're... I'm sorry, bingo. If you had to fight someone to the death and the only weapons you could use is cheese, what type of cheese would you choose? Oh, it would have to be blue cheese. Absolutely. Although, I don't know, maybe a well-aged Parmesan, because you could sharpen that thing to a deadly edge. But you slap someone in the face with blue cheese, you get done for contravening the chemical weapon restrictions in the Geneva Convention. I do like me a nice blue cheese sauce, but don't ask me to actually eat a piece of blue. You know, the stuff with all of the fungus veins running through it, where the bacteria has... Yeah, if it sounds chemically offensive, it's because it is. But it smells lovely. I don't like the taste, but I do like it melted down into a nice blue cheese sauce. Actually, a couple of days ago, I bought a couple of blue cheese, I suppose you'd call them patties. They're basically burger toppings. And it's like a 1/4-inch thick slice of blue cheese that you put on top of it. So you fry the burger on one side. Oh, and I got buffalo chicken burgers to go with them as well. Oh, man, they were good. And they even came with their own blue cheese drizzle, but I use that for my fries. So you fry this chicken burger on one side, you flip it, you instantly put the blue cheese patty on top. Then you sprinkle a bit of water into the frying pan to produce instant steam, and you put a lid on top of the pan. and that melts, as well as cooking the burger on the uncooked side that you've just flipped over. It melts the cheese like you wouldn't believe, because you're basically steaming it. And so I had that with some pickled jalapenos on top, 2 of those in burgers, and then a bunch of fries, and I used the blue cheese drizzle that came with the buffalo chicken burgers to just drizzle all over the fries. Oh, it was. I'm definitely doing that again. Sorry if I'm making you all hungry here, by the way.
Yeah, you definitely are.
But yeah, I'm definitely doing that again. Hang on a second, I need some coffee. Ugh. Right. I've forgotten what the question. Oh yeah, if you had to fight someone to the death and the only weapons you could use were cheese. Yeah, if I wanted to stab somebody, I'd take some Parmesan, because that stuff gets hard with age and it holds a wicked edge. But if I just wanted to poison somebody, definitely blue cheese. Frankie B says he was at the university in Newcastle at the same time I served on HMS Newcastle. Do you have any tales from your time in the city? Yeah, we did we had the Freedom of the City once. We didn't actually get to go up to Newcastle very often, which is kind of, a shame considering the name of the ship, HMS Newcastle. But on the one occasion when I was on board, and we did, and I was on that ship for 4 years, they gave us the Freedom of the City. It's always great when you're in because Type 42 destroyers are named after towns and cities, and some of those towns and cities don't have a coast, which makes it very difficult for you to do an affiliated town visit. So, for example, when I was on HMS Coventry, we never went to Coventry because Coventry's nowhere near the sea. But when I was on HMS Newcastle, we did get to go there, and it was amazing. I mean, not just because it was my hometown and I hadn't been back in ages, but they absolutely love the Navy up there. It's not like Portsmouth or Plymouth. I mean, Plymouth, they hate the Navy. In Portsmouth, these are, for those of you who don't know, they're big Navy bases. Plymouth, for some reason, they absolutely hate the Navy. In Portsmouth, they don't hate the Navy because they kind of understand that Portsmouth's entire existence depends on the Navy being there. But we're not amazingly popular. But they don't, hate us and go around in gangs looking for sailors to beat up the way they do in Plymouth, or the way they used to do in Plymouth. But you don't have that in Newcastle. There's a tiny little Royal Naval Reserve base on the Gateshead side of the River Tyne, with maybe 20 members of their ship's company. That's it. There's a couple of Sea Cadet. I can't even remember the names of the Sea Cadet. I hesitate to use the word base. It's basically, they have a hut. But that's it. There's no Navy. And so we're something of an oddity. They haven't had time to get pissed off with us because we're only there for a weekend. And we did the march through the city, everybody in the number 1 uniforms, with a guard, with rifles, and the Royal Marine Band turned up to march us through the city at the tail of the parade. Because obviously you don't have a ship's band on board. So the Royal Marine Band turned up to do the honours. They presented us with the Freedom of the City, which was purely ceremonial, but then we all went ashore in our uniform. We didn't have to spend anything in the bars and pubs. Everything was free. People were lining the streets cheering. I was like, wow, this is, having been based in Plymouth and Portsmouth, the idea of the members of the public cheering as sailors was completely alien. But yeah, they absolutely loved us up there. And I remember this was just a weird thing. Again, the contrast between being in uniform in a Navy-based town and then being in uniform in a place that wasn't a Navy-based town. The differences were just night and day. Myself, my chief writer, had to go to the bank honestly, I don't even know what we were doing. He couldn't do it alone because money was involved, so somebody had to be along, just to ensure he didn't, try to run off to South America with whatever money was in the bag. So he's deposited some money in the bank, and he said, right, get your uniform on. Well, I was in uniform anyway because I was on board the ship. He says, get your hat, we're off ashore at the bank. And he was there, he's a chief petty officer, I was just an able rating. The two of us there in our uniform, standing in a queue, and the bank manager comes out and says, is there anything I can help you with? And I'm like, yeah, we're just here to make whatever it was we're doing. Like I said, I don't even know what it was. And the bank manager personally was like, oh, you're not standing in a queue. We can't have members of the Royal Navy standing in a queue. Come with me, chief. And whisked us away, served us coffee, and personally handled whatever banking business we had to do. And that was such an alien experience for somebody who had, been used to how the Navy were treated in Navy-based towns to be, treated like VIPs when you were someplace in uniform that wasn't a Navy-based town. It was amazing and really, really eerie at the same time. I was like, what's going on here? Is this some kind of hidden camera show? Somebody can jump out and say, you've been had. But no, it's just what it's like. Anyway, next question from Marianthon Rex. Hello, Mighty Overlord. Will you ever make a playthrough of the game Outer Wilds? Because you like Subnautica, it's kind of like that. Beautiful game, I bet you will enjoy. Did I? People keep saying, Jingles, you need to play the... Am I getting mixed up with the Outer Worlds? Because I know I did the Outer Worlds. Two very, very similar titles. Outer Worlds is like Fallout in space. Probably because it was made by a bunch of people who worked on Fallout 3, I think. Former Bethesda employees. Outer Wilds. I'm going to have to look that one up because I know I've played the Outer Worlds. I don't know if I've played the Outer Wilds. I guess I haven't played the Outer Wilds because so many people keep saying, Jingles, are you ever going to do a game series on the Outer Wilds? What? That's really weird, though, by the way, because it seems like an oddly specific title that so many people keep recommending to me. Maybe because it's similar. If it's anything like Subnautica, it's definitely not the Outer Worlds, which is basically Fallout in space. So I'll have to have a look. Volker802, hello from under the Alps. Will you do more War Thunder replays? Yeah, absolutely. Maybe not so much ground, because, World of Tanks exists. Although I appreciate, War Thunder Tanks are completely different. But my problem with War Thunder Tanks, and this isn't actually a problem, but it's my problem, and the reason why I don't play War Thunder Tanks is I cannot see enemy tanks. Unless they're in the open, I can't see them. I famously, I don't know how famous it's going to be, but I was with Fly Daily and somebody else, and we're all in a platoon of 3 tanks, and I hadn't played War Thunder in a while, and I went back just to play with these guys, and they're all going, incoming, 3 o'clock, you see him? Yeah. And I'm looking at, and I can't see anything. I'm like, what are you? And I can even see the shell tracer coming in, but I still can't see the tank that's firing. And this is my problem with War Thunder Tanks replays as well as playing War Thunder Tanks. I just cannot see those enemy tanks unless they're in the open right in front of me. Where are these shots coming from? Which makes it really frustrating or practically impossible to play, but also makes it next to impossible to narrate a War Thunder Tanks video because I have no idea what's going on. Unless the enemy tank is right in front of him, or you're playing on a city map or something, but if there's the slightest bit of concealment, I cannot see those enemy tanks. I have no idea what the player's shooting at. Aircraft, on the other hand, because, there's not a lot of place to hide in the sky, so it's relatively easy to figure out what's happening and why. And also because, it's something that you don't get from watching World of Tanks videos. So yeah, War Thunder aircraft, definitely. How we doing for time? Oh, well, we did start pretty late, so we'll keep going for a few minutes more. Lots of questions here. From Yang Wen Li, dear Overlord Jingles, praised be thy omnipotence, feared be your omnipresence, the extent of which is limited only by your incompetence. He knows me so well. 3 questions. Are you recording? Can you prove it? I think so, and I can't prove it until after. So I really hope so. 2, if you remember my profile name and picture, which you probably don't, you're right, I don't, you should know the main question. Let me just quickly click on his profile. Nope, don't remember it. Have you converted to our small cult of media enjoyers? Also, can we get Jingles Minion Q&A? Let me have a look at his... I'm going to have to actually, because my eyes are crap, have a closer look. Give me a second, just take a closer look at his profile picture. His profile picture is a cartoon strip called Vlad the Impaler Discovers Marshmallows. So, going back to his second question, if you remember my profile name and picture, which you probably don't, you should know the main question. But I don't remember your profile name and picture, and your profile picture isn't reminding me of anything. So I don't know the main question. So no, I haven't converted to your small cult of media enjoyers, and I have no idea what you're talking about. He always edits the question. I'm the anime conversion guy. Oh, he's the guy who keeps trying to get me to play more anime games and play Genshin Impact and watch various different anime shows. How do you feel about the gacha mechanics in World of Warships? Oh, yeah, this is his main question, I suppose, now. Question 3. He gave up on the game slowly after finding Genshin Impact. Wow, look at that. It's almost like I can see the future. It feels so strange that a game literally centered around a virtual casino of characters and weapons feels more forgiving and rewarding in terms of your time invested compared to World of Warships or World of Tanks. Do you have any games that give you a similar feeling? You know, I was thinking about this just a couple of days ago. How can I put this? I'm in no way trying to defend wargaming here, okay? The gacha mechanics in World of Warships, and I mean, they've been like that in World of Tanks for years, but they're getting increasingly so in World of Warships. They are annoying. I'm able to resist them. But, I mean, they work, clearly, because a lot of people don't have, my level of mental fortitude. And, oh, look, a bright, shiny thing, let me click on it, and blah, blah, and so on and so on. And yet, at the same time, you have to remember this is a free-to-play game. Well, both of them. World of Tanks. Well, World of Tanks, you're going to be... I don't know if it's already happened, but you are going to be able... It's not going to be a free-to-play game. You can buy a subscription to World of Tanks, and I'm pretty sure it's only a matter of time before that'll happen in World of Warships as well, so there will, by definition, no longer be free-to-play games. But at the moment, World of Warships, at least, is a 100% free-to-play game. So we probably shouldn't be too surprised or upset that it features a lot of free-to-play monetization options, because it's a free-to-play game. And while I am in no way defending the gacha mechanics that World of Warships employs to try to fleece the more susceptible members of the player base, it's the kind of thing that you have to expect from a game that is free-to-play. Now, again, while I'm in no way trying to defend World of Warships or wargaming for this, when you look, that they're still not as bad as certain games published by AAA publishers who incorporate all of the same shit that you get in World of Warships, but take it to the next level in games that you do actually have to pay money for. So Electronic Arts are particularly bad at this. If you've ever played an NBA basketball game in the last 10 years, they're not basketball games. They're loot card dispensers with a basketball game skin thrown on top of them. I mean, bad though wargaming are, you kind of have to expect that kind of, free-to-play monetization options because it's a free-to-play game. But then the big publishers are even more shameless because they're selling you full-price games, like $60 titles that have got worse, not just free-to-play monetization mechanics, but mobile game monetization mechanics. The most predatory monetization mechanics on the planet being sold to you in full-price games from AAA publishers like Electronic Arts and Activision and Take-Two and so on and so on. So again, I'm not trying to defend wargaming here. They're pretty reprehensible. But you have to temper your expectations a little. Nobody should be surprised by free-to-play monetization mechanics in a free-to-play game. It sucks, it's horrible, it's nasty, but it's entirely to be expected. And it could and is a lot worse in games that you do actually pay full-price tickets in order to play. Basically, any sports game from Electronic Arts. And the list goes on and on and on. And I think on that note, I am going to... Oh, I've just noticed. April White Mouse is online. I don't know if you're in the chat, but hello, April. Long time no see. I'm sure everybody knows April. If you don't, shame on you. Go and check out her World of Warships reviews, although she stopped doing them quite some time ago for very, very good reasons. Hello, April. How you doing? And I think we're going to knock that one on the head there. Because Akazuki's crying in the background for something. I should probably go and investigate. And yeah, we've had a good probably 45 minutes. So thank you once again for your questions. Thank you for putting up with my tardiness. And thank you to the staff who hit the Discord call button loud enough that I actually heard it from the bedroom and realised I was supposed to be here doing this. So, otherwise, this could have been even more embarrassing than it already was. So thank you to everybody who turned up for the live Q&A. And if you're watching this as Monday's Mingles with Jingles, take care, and I'll catch you next time.